right. Ooh. What's up, nerds? And welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. Our return tonight has definitely been a long time coming, and I couldn't do it without the support around me. So joining me on this venture back and into the future are, one of my co-hosts right now, Ramses, will be joining us in just a little bit. But everyone who's going to be brought onto the show are definitely, faces and voices that you were accustomed to hearing on the network already. So as you can tell, joining me tonight is Spyder. Spyder, thank you so much for being here and tagging along on this Overwatch 2 shenanigery journey that we're going to be on here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's good to be on Heroes Never Die. I think I was on episode 25 initially, and then one other one at some point. Let me move the mic over so it doesn't stop popping in and out. That's for our new YouTube listeners. Now that we're not audio only, I can do visual things. You can see behind me, I have celebration going on because something happened over the past week that I should be excited about. And many other people are, and it's not going well for that fan base because people are like, all right, that's enough. Just shut up. I got that the first night. As soon as Dallas won, they were like, okay, take your victory lap and then shut the hell up. And I'm like, oh, wow, Shock fans are angry.
Well, that's what happens when you're just so accustomed to winning.
Yeah. And no, we'll talk about the grand finals. We'll talk about the whole playoffs. Obviously, good to be on Heroes Never Die. A little more general of an Overwatch show, our Overwatch 2 show, I guess I should say now, because Overwatch 1 is dead. It's a dead game. Everybody who predicted it was correct. But yeah, it's great to be here. Obviously, Ramses will join us eventually. We'll get. Hopefully we'll develop that co-host synergy where we finish each other's sentences. And that's gonna be really easy with Ramses because he says some silly stuff sometimes. So we can lean into that pretty easily. But how about you, man? How you went to the grand finals? I sat at home and watched it on my computer screen, and then eventually on the big screen, and then eventually on my phone because I was afraid. So I went to the bedroom. I'm like, I'm just going to bed. Dallas is going to lose. I'll watch it on my phone. And then, if it looks really bad, I'll just turn it off and go to bed. But then I came back out and watched it on the big screen again. But you were there, man. How was it live?
I mean, it definitely had its ups and downs. Being out there, in Anaheim when BlizzCon would normally be was definitely very weird. For me, knowing that I've been to 7 BlizzCons. So, just flying out there and knowing that I'm not going to see, just the amount of people that I'm normally getting hang out with around this time was a little depressing because, not too many people actually made the trip out there. Actually, the only people that I saw were local Cali people. Ramses being one of them, and my PIC Vosh drove down as well. So we got to hang out, and she's just she's not a huge Overwatch fan, but that was really one of her first ventures into esports. So I was trying to explain what the meta is and how how they're setting up the team fights and things like that, and she picked up pretty quick. But she's a Bay Area local, so getting to see Shock make the run that they did and make it to the grand finals was pretty cool. That she got to see that. At least her team got to do that. Mine not so much because they kind of got knocked out by Shock. But overall, a live experience. Having Golden Boy back was phenomenal. There were definitely a couple of occasions where we were playing games with crowd noise. We were doing Flappy Bird. We had a game of Pawn between the left side of the arena and the right side. So that was kind of cool. And then they had dance offs and little competitions.
Yeah, they showed
here and there.
They showed a couple of the dance offs on the stream. But yeah, I remember him doing that kind of stuff at the Washington homestand. So and I think it was on a Reddit thread or somebody, but they were like, why have Golden Boy? He's on there for 2 minutes. And I'm like, no. And people in the comments said this too, as well. I'm like, he does a lot there. He is out there a lot. in between matches, you know, pauses, whatever, filling, like, you don't realize that, like, when the desk segment is going on, you know, you hear the desk, but you still got to keep the crowd engaged. So you know, there's stuff going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, I wish I could have been there, but it's a little unreasonable for me right now.
Yeah, definitely understandable. And you know, like the crowd like excitement level was definitely there. I wouldn't say it was anywhere near like the level of like the 2019 Overwatch World Cup when, you know, the United States team was, you know, just tearing it down.
Oh my god, that
But
Hanamura map. Like I still hear that map. Like, you know, and when Flower started popping off, like that was nuts. When I was there. So I can only imagine like when US actually won, how loud it would be.
yeah, that was definitely crazy. And you know, like the crowd felt pretty divided in regards to like the fan bases, which was great to see as well. Like there wasn't like a clear favorite. Like the reactions that the Outlaws, the Shock, and the Fuel got were all pretty like streamlined and even, which was kind of surprising because I thought, you know, being in Anaheim, the Shock fanfare would have kind of just taken over, which wasn't quite the case. But you know, all in all, you know, there were, you know, I had good experience, I had bad experience. Seems like anytime I'm out in California, there's always like some shit going on with my bank. That trend continued.
Always.
You know, it is what it is. But, you know, before we get too far in tonight, I just wanted to like take a moment and really, you know, reflect on like where this podcast has been and, you know, kind of like where we're going. Because, you know, for those that don't know, like if you're a newer listener, you know, this podcast, Here's Never Die, was really like the first podcast that I ended up producing. And, you know, it initially started back in like the early beta days of Overwatch 1 back in 2016. So like this has been going on for quite some time. And, you know, we had a bit of a hiatus after, you know, some burnout and just, you know, obviously lack of updates for a while there. And of course, you know, Adenar had stuff going on in his personal life. And, you know, he's kind of like in the abyss now or playing Marvel Snap or whatever he's doing. But basically, like right now, obviously, we have a long history. You know, sure, like we've had different faces, we've had different voices on the show over the years. But, you know, we're still committed to providing you guys weekly updates and really engaging conversations here on the show. And now that the Overwatch League season is over, you know, it gives us an opportunity to really hone in on, you know, some Overwatch 2 content. And really that kicks off here tonight. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to be talking about Overwatch League because we already are. And, you know, we are in the middle of Roster Apocalypse, which started today. So we got a lot of stuff to really dive into tonight on top of talking about, you know, the playoffs, the grand finals. And, you know, we got the new hero reveal, which happened at the grand finals as well. But I will note, you know, if you're joining us here tonight on YouTube, you know, we are live streaming. So thank you so much for being here. If you hear, you know, one of our traditional audio listeners out there, of course, welcome back. And, you know, just as a note, we will be live streaming on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific time, traditionally over on our YouTube channel. So go check it out there. But, you know, you don't want to just check out the audio only version. But, you know, we're just really looking forward to, you know, keeping up to date with everything going on with Overwatch 2. And, okay, you know, we'll see what sort of shenanigans we'll get into. Because, you know, we've always kind of, you know, try different things on this show. Some segment works, some segments don't. But, you know, we have a lot of fun really putting this together. And, you know, with the holidays coming up, I would love to at least have some semblance of a Christmas special. Because that was really... something that we've done in the past that I just have an absolute blast with.
Yeah, I definitely remember like doing like our Christmas wish lists and stuff on Overwatch League Network. So leaning into that here and be able to getting like a little more general will be a lot of fun because right now there's no shortage of things that we could ask for now that we know we're actually getting things. So that's a fun line. You know, like Maga, who they teased, but didn't deliver again. Oh my gosh. I feel like every time they're like, Maga's ready to go, let's put him out. Like somebody sends them like a cease and desist order. Like, you know, Disney's like, no, he looks too much like Maui. No, not this time. So like, oh, okay, robot. Make him a robot, and we'll give him all his kit. So we'll, like I said at the top of the show, I'm glad to be on Heroes Never Die. It was like my first foot in the puddle to Overwatch specific podcasting, and then obviously we went on to the more competitive focused Overwatch League network. So coming full circle for me, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I'll be on every show, but I will try to be on as many as them as possible. With 3 children, you never know what's gonna happen. I said it on the stream, but if my voice gives out here, I am sorry. I am sick. I am holding it together with water and throat lozenges to try to power through this, but I probably will not be as loud, as jubilant as I normally am.
Yeah, completely understandable. But anyways, getting back to the competitive Overwatch side, we had the playoffs, we had the grand finals, and like all in all, like there were other things to do like live at the venue. They were doing things for like in-game items where you would go around and scan QR codes, and like you'd have like a QR code either like on the big screen. There were some by the statues. There was one by like the food truck, one by the fountain, and it was a way for you to basically like unlock like community like art essentially that is available in game. And they kind of split it up between the 2 days, and I don't know if they were offering like different rewards, but like they still separated it where like you could do it both days, either way. But like there were 8 total, and I didn't really get to focus too much on that. It did take a minute for me to like figure out how to actually access the QR code within the Overwatch League app, because that was the only way to actually do it. But it felt like everything was just really kind of congested when you're talking about like the live experience. Kind of like before you enter the arena itself, they would have like the merchandise booth, and they had the meet and greet stuff there, like up against the wall. That's also where they had the upper deck booth where I think they were doing it where like you could get yourself scanned, and then it would print out like you as like an upper deck card. But the line for that stuff was always very hectic. As Ramses is joining us here tonight.
I thought I did that, but let me go to because I actually they couldn't see it on stream, thankfully, but I had to step away because, of course, as soon as I said, you never know what's going to happen with 3 kids, a kid walks out. Yes. Let me, you can absolutely keep talking. I will work on.
While you're fiddling around with it, absolutely. Ramses, welcome. Good to have you here.
Hello. I was telling the boys, what? Every Thursday, I'm like, all right, I have my schedule set up. I'll be able to leave at 7:15, get home and be on at 8, easy. And then a bunch of our stuff switched out at 7:16, and I ended up staying later than I needed to. But I'm here, feeling good. Spyder, if I can give you here's what me and Totem's entire time was like at grand final. So just imagine you're sitting there in the background, some yelling, "Sit! Sit! Sit!" during the San Francisco Shock match. Totem's like, yeah, it was a good match. In the background, someone, "Sit! He's Kalush said sit. He typed out sit in the game. He said sit. Guys, look, he said sit."
Sometimes I don't think reading comprehension is a blessing.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. It was poor Totem, man. So any comments in the Discord server about Totem being frustrated with Shock fans? Honestly, it was one dude. It was one dude.
Was that just one day, or was that like every day?
Yeah. It was during the Shock versus Soul game. Like that guy didn't really talk anymore afterwards. But he kept. You would have thought this dude was like. You would have thought Proper loaned this dude $500, man, because this dude would not stop talking about how good he was. The whole anytime Soul got any kills at all, he would just shut up. And then whenever Proper would get a single kill, he'd be like, "Not good enough, not good enough." Yep, not good enough. That So that was one experience. I'm sorry to interrupt. The other part.
No. This is perfect because this is giving me time to set up the 3 cam overlay. So
the other thing that was funny. By the way, we're live, right?
we are.
Okay,
So
good. Just making sure. The other thing that was funny is that Totem and I are sitting. There's these two Houston fans directly in front of us who somehow having Merritt on the team has completely erased their perception that Houston is a flaky and chaotic team. So like my dude's up there holding up a sign that says Merritt diff. Which, by the way, dude just would stand up directly in front of Totem and hold up this side, and like Totem, I just can't see for like 50 seconds at a time. Anytime Merritt gets a kill ever in the server, just stand up, hold up his big poster board sign. Me and Totem just sit there quietly waiting for it to be over. The slump that dude went into once Proper just started hard diffing him the entire tournament. just head in his hands like shaking. Like, what did we expect? It's fine. We got way further than I thought we were going to get to. Like, I'll take third place. Getting beat by Shock, sure. I'll super take that.
yeah.
It's just like, oh.
No, I was rooting for Houston, just because I was so worried about the Shock. Like as soon as Proper came out and started playing the way he did against Shock, that was like the first moment for me all tournament where I was like, oh shit, we could actually lose. Like, cause I turned to my daughter cause she was watching it with me and I'm like, that's not good. And she goes, why, what? And I'm like, dude, he's playing out of his mind today. I'm like, we don't need an on day for Proper. We need an off day for Proper. But we'll get to the grand finals and all of that. Cameras are fixed. We're ready to go. So
yay! Sorry to ruin everything on that end.
It's all good. But
No.
The important thing is Ramses. Like we got both 2 cam and 3 cam set up for future streams.
Oh,
It was gonna need to happen regardless.
Exactly.
Last anecdote I have to throw in.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever heard of Coco's before, Spyder?
No. What is Coco's?
So Coco's is like a Denny's equivalent. They're not 24-hour though, but as far as like level of food, it's about the same.
Okay.
Coco's used to be a chain all over at least Southern California. Maybe it's nationwide. I don't know. Down here in San Diego, all the Coco's are gone. So when Totem goes, yeah, I'll be at the Coco's at this time, I was like, sick, easy. There's got to be only one Coco's in the entire Orange County area. And
Nope.
wouldn't you know it, I go to that Coco's and Totem is not there. And I'm like,
This is what I think he said that. Like you guys.
There's a follow-up to this. Which is
So
important
Totem
to
is
note.
not at the Coco's. So I was like, what? You're telling me there's more than one Coco's in Orange County, let alone in like Anaheim? Okay, all right. So I go and I get Totem. I go to the Coco's that Totem's at. And Totem, I will give Totem a hard time for this because Totem has been standing in front of the door for this Coco's for at least 15 minutes.
I was on the other side primarily.
There's a paper on the door that says, we are closed. Go to our other location.
Oh my God.
But all the lights are on in this building.
Yes, all the lights are on in that Coco's.
Which was really confusing.
There's a paper taped to the front door that says, we're at the, don't come in, we're at the other location.
This is a literacy test that guy who was able to read match chat would have at least passed.
Well, see, here's the thing. At the end of the day, like, no one was actually, like, walking up to the doorway and seeing it and then walking away. So I didn't realize it at the time. But I was primarily just chilling at the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And then that happened. But, yeah, like, it was definitely, like, oh, my God. Like, of course. So, we circled back to the other location to grab breakfast. But, yeah, just, like, attending the grand finals and one of the other things that was pretty constant was the Houston fans in front of us were just like reading the kill cam.
Dude.
To be fair, that's what some casters do and they make it a profession. So
By the way, Coco's, if you want to sponsor us, Coco's, if you want us to do an ad, we're here. We will happily do ads for Coco's. Let me know. I'll go.
Heroes never die.
I'll do it in the Coco's. I will go right now.
Heroes never die. Brought to you by Coco's, not the closed one, the open one. Read the sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Totem, like, I felt bad. I would just point. I would just look at Totem. I'd point at the dude in front of us, just like, Merrick gets one kill, stand up, throw up the sign, and then Kalush freaking swats 3 of our guys.
It's like wacky waving inflatable tube man, but he goes off the kill feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was definitely interesting because, like, during some of the matches, Golden Boy would be like sitting in our section. Sean Miller also was in our section
Yeah.
at one point, which was pretty cool. Which Ramses didn't really notice.
Oh, I didn't. I just thought it was some dude, and then I was like, oh, it's.
I
Some
mean, technically,
dude,
it
like,
was
he's
some
official.
dude.
Well, like, look, I don't know who shot. You're telling me, Totem, if I lined up 10 white dudes just in a line in front of you, you'd be able to like Sean Miller, that one. Like, no.
I mean, I know what the guy looks like, and he was well.
Well, now I do. Now
And he was very.
he had a badge.
He was very
personable.
He was very upfront and personable, which was another standout thing. So, like, you could tell he was somewhat of importance to the league in this case. But yeah, like, definitely pretty cool being there. But just not the same level of hype that I'm kind of accustomed to, attending the World Cup at BlizzCon. But, it was still one hell of a time.
I will say, I think part of that is because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at BlizzCon, people have spent the last 2.5 days in a constant drunk state. So I think people are way more willing to just let loose and like get hype. There was a lot of fans there that were under the age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
I can
It
see
was
that.
like probably at least like I don't want to get into too much math about it, but it was a significant portion. Significant portion of people were under 21.
I could see that. Overwatch is regaining the youth popularity now that there's kind of a vacuum for it. So, but hey, it's good. That's what we need right now to keep the game alive.
Yeah, it was interesting too because like I don't know if Totem got into this. Even like on Grand Finals day, they didn't sell out the arena. It was like the entire
Yeah, we
lower
could see that.
bowl- Yeah, entire lower bowl was full, and then maybe like a couple sections on the top were never full, but like were decently like populated.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is just a lot of I think a lot of the people just chose not. Like I knew people who choose not to come just because of like either they went to other stuff ahead of time, or because like they still with COVID weren't super like interested in it.
I know the turnaround time was was part of the thing that stopped a lot of people, at least from like the East Coast, from going because it was too fast. Like, to book all that and stuff. Sure, it's possible, but you got to take off work. You got to, like me, you got to find somebody to deal with the kids because you don't want to leave them with your wife, stuff like that. So I know like a couple of the people, like specifically the guy that I went to the Philly Grand Finals with, he was like, I'm going to go. And then when they announced it, it was so late. He's like, I already have like DJ gigs booth like booked because he's a DJ on the weekends. So he's like, I can't go. I'd rather make money than spend money. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, like my buddy like Labosco with Push Point, like he already had like booked for TwitchCon, and he was gonna come out for TwitchCon, and then literally like the next weekend, Overwatch League put out their stuff. So it was like I agree, quick turnaround is definitely a big part of it. It was. I didn't do the whole like post hang that I know a lot of people do, but I get the impression it wasn't as many people as it is in the past. But granted, that's also because typically you have like every World Cup team is also there too.
Right.
It did seem as well that a lot of the players, like once they were knocked out, I think a lot of people went home.
Yeah, I could see that. Because I mean, after that, there's nothing like, at least with BlizzCon, there's still BlizzCon to explore. So there's that hype. I know a lot of the players actually like effed off and went to Disneyland for
sure.
So
there's those Florida pics of all of them going to Splash Mountain.
So
and automobile like Disneyland is not for kids.
Yeah. And somehow Sir Majed's on the very front of the boat, like feeding.
That's my man right there. It's interesting too, because like there were some parts of it I thought were really fun. Like Totem, I don't know how much you got to do with it, but they had like the push the payload, like all these different QR codes you can scan.
Yeah, he was talking about that right as you joined.
Which like some of those were like, so the ones that they had like in the arena, I think were really fun. But then some of it like wasn't like they had one for the food trucks. And then Totem, you may have noticed as well, on Friday, there were no food trucks. There were no food trucks, or I guess they got there like at 4 after we were all already in the building. Like it was interesting. Like it's Blizzard, right? So like there's the parts that are really polished and really well put together are awesome, and the parts that like haven't got as much attention are a little rickety. Like for instance, we knew that proper one MVP like 15 minutes before.
Yeah.
Like,
That was all over
just-
the YouTube chat that was leaked in the arena because they messed up the graphics.
yeah.
NA production for you happens every time. Doesn't matter if it's tier 2, tier 3, or what, or the Overwatch League. You know, shit just goes wrong. But yeah, okay. So one of the first things that Ramses and I were talking about, like when we actually got there in line on day one, we're like, holy shit, there's a Contenders thing right there.
Yo, they had Contenders merch. Granted, not merch that you could buy. They were just giving out hats and like stuff. So of course,
Oh, that's cool.
Every kid who was currently playing in Collegiate or Contenders, and every caster I know was like, "Give me that, give me." And they didn't charge. I was like, man, if they had charged money for those hats, like that would be more money than Contenders makes in the past like 5 years in one day.
I mean, that's only selling one of them.
They had it. They had that. I got some pins and some stickers. I'll go grab the pins for you in a sec. Like they had stuff for Collegiate too. Like they had like Collegiate had up there. I forget what the name of the new initiative is. Oh, they had stuff for Calling All Heroes there too. Like, great, awesome. Like this was like that was something I feel like people have been. And granted, COVID's been an issue, but I feel like it's something that people have been begging for years. Like, just have a booth.
Right, exactly.
Just have something where people can know that this is a thing. And like you look at it, granted, the numbers are a little bit better, but like Contenders actually has like a full like marketing campaign right now. Like there is an actual push for that, thankfully, which I know like my friends who still are working there like are it sounds like are a little bit more happy with.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's been a long time coming. So to see them just have a presence at all, because they had like the summer series banner promoted, next to the Contender stuff as well, and that was kind of the thing that was going on, here recently, which kind of ties into the Run It Back tournament that is kicking off, for all the regions. So like right now, like Contenders Korea is underway. They got like 1 week under their belt, and EU, China, and Europe should all be kicking off like towards the end of the month. But just to like see them have a presence, and then on top of that, actually have them actively promoting Contenders during the Overwatch League Grand Finals. Like I texted Ramses, I'm like, holy shit! Like they actually showed Contenders and advertised it. That we have been waiting years.
Oh, like
just for anything, really.
And like individual players too. They were like, "Oh, you want to see FD God? He's playing for a team whose name I don't remember." Like, here's a bunch of like individual players that you could also like latch onto as well.
That's good. That's what they need to do. I feel like the pressure from Valorant is doing that, because Valorant has a lot of that stuff baked into it, and they do the same thing. Like they push player streams. They push, obviously, I forget what it's called. The challenge, I think it's Challenger League or something, or maybe that's League of Legends. But they do the same thing, and I feel like Blizzard's finally starting to realize, like, hey, if we do this, it's not going to be such a huge money sink. Like we're gonna get it back, and Totem. This goes all the way back to like the beginning of Overwatch League Network. Like we've been huge advocates of just market tier 2. Like it doesn't take that much. Like put it on the launcher, put it everywhere. Like around here, I'm actually lucky enough to be pretty close to Harrisburg University because it's like 2 hours north of me. So I get like Overwatch collegiate ads all the time, just I guess from geo marketing and stuff. So that's definitely something that they need to work on. And I'm glad to hear that at the live events they're doing it, because when I went to the Washington event, oh God, what was that, 2 years ago at this point? They didn't have anything for Contenders. Like they didn't even mention it. So
they did the Blizzard strategy of, no, we're pushing everything, including Contenders marketing, to Overwatch 2.
Good.
But yeah, so of course, with it being the playoffs, we also had a lot of the different Overwatch League awards getting handed out. Granted, the MVP got leaked early, which we'd already talked about. But just a quick rundown of who walked home with the awards. You had Christopher from the London Spitfire winning Coach of the Year. Hadi ended up winning the Hawelka Award. Proper became the first player to win both the Alarm Rookie of the Year award as well as the League MVP. And Fearless ended up winning the Grand Finals MVP as well. So, like the Christopher call, definitely not too surprising. Obviously, like London the prior year had really struggled. And, they were definitely a team on the uptick. They were more the Cinderella team throughout the season as well. Better results than what we had initially anticipated. And, they really just managed to do things their own way. They found their style, they found success with it, and they rode it until the wheels started to slowly fall off before they started to do some mirror compositions and things like that, at least in regards to the playoffs. But I was just really happy overall with the choices that they did make. And, London wasn't the only team that saw, fairly decent uptick in regards to overall performance this season.
No, I think everybody that got an award really deserved it. I have some issues with a couple of the role stars, but they're stupid, nitpicky issues. I don't think anybody got a role star that didn't deserve it. I just think there might have been better candidates for. Obviously Dante is the one that stands out. Or someone I feel like someone
Who?
should be on there too. Someone
Who should be on there?
someone
Who?
someone
Who are you talking about?
we could do this for hours, Ramses. I got nowhere to be.
So what I have heard from other places as well, from other podcasts, is that they vote on these awards, or they put in for these awards beginning of stage 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there's still a ton of play time that and I've seen even on Platch several guys saying if we had 2 or more weeks, Dante would have gotten on there.
Oh, easily. There's not a question. And even the ones that did get tank role stars, I think they deserve to be on there. Obviously Hadi, Smurf, and Hanbin. Reiner is an iffy one for me because he kind of petered out halfway through the season. He still was decent. But I feel like someone, and obviously Dante, had more of an impact all season long. I mean, when you sign a tank and then your tank plays 2 games and then you bench your tank for your DPS that had been playing tank, I feel like that DPS is probably doing pretty good as a tank.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Proper, entirely deserved. The argument of can you win Rookie of the Year and MVP of the Year notwithstanding, I did find it funny that I think none of the Chinese broadcast voted for Proper at all, and he still won. That's crazy. They do not like San Francisco Shock or something. They voted for Hadi and stuff like that. There's definitely a favorite bias there, but yeah, I think all the awards were good. Fearless winning MVP is the big one for me because it's okay, he. The redemption arc is over. He succeeded. The anime protagonist won, kind of thing.
Did you see I don't know if it was the Chinese or the Korean broadcast, or one of the guys dressed up as Hadi?
Yeah. Yeah, it was Kiriko, Hadi, and then a caster. So, yeah, I liked all the awards. I mean, Dallas picking up 2 role stars in support. I'm not going to complain about that, right?
It was I'm happy with how it all turned out. I really with all those, you can make arguments for other people for Rookie of the Year or MVP, but at the end of the day, Proper is a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
I know the narrative. I myself got caught up in the Smurf head narrative of the end of the year, and Smurf definitely deserved recognition. He got Roll Star out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you look at, and granted, there are times where I feel people are trying to push. Well, I say people that different storylines in the league are trying to push this narrative of Proper is the faker of Overwatch. This is dude. It's a little heavy sometimes, but you saw it in grand finals. When that guy was on, and when that guy had room, nobody could touch him.
Yeah. No, it definitely speaks to the level of talent that he has, that the rest of his team could be gapped and they were still that competitive. Like, it was proper keeping them in that match. Like, don't get me wrong, the other players contributed, but not to the level that he did. The stats may not reflect deadlift status, but it was definitely, proper keeping them in the grand finals 100%. And proper almost single-handedly beat the Outlaws. Like, the shots that he was hitting against the Outlaws, I'm like, dude, if he keeps hitting those, we're done. So
I'm telling you, I wish I could make this dude in front of us into an emote of just like heads down, shaking, clutching his merit diff sign. Like,
Merritt, you're so consistent. Where are you now? Meanwhile, Proper's like sliding out of like Numbani into Route 66 and just headshotting 3 of them.
oh, dude.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to like redo a sign, like on the other side of it, But that didn't actually happen.
Well, because sure enough, next day those dudes showed up with different jerseys. Which, like, who among us?
Yeah.
Who among us? I'm not gonna call like I'm way better than that. I bought my Glads jersey while I was there.
I was wearing a Washington Justice jersey all day today, and I'm like, dude, if I show up to the podcast with a Washington Justice jersey, I'm gonna never hear the end of it. So,
so quick note about it too. The merch was interesting. They had jerseys for like a good chunk of the teams, but like except for Florida and for London, and it was for all the top 8 teams.
That's weird.
Everybody in top 8 had merch. But like no Florida, I don't like Florida and London. I also feel like have like specific weird jersey stuff. Shock didn't have jerseys there either.
They could be, because I know Fuel have a lot of like non-standard envious stuff for Dallas Fuel. So maybe those teams just have more of like a tight grip on, their jersey sales because that's how they make money. Especially Shock, because Shock's run by NRG, and NRG is going to keep a tight lockdown on all of that shit.
Side note, the jerseys have been on like a huge sale. They were like 65 when we were there, when they're typically like listed at 75. And last time I checked last week, they were online for 60. Like, there is a chance that we may get new jerseys next year. A chance. I wouldn't bet on it, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, I hope so. And, I really wish that they would come out with, like, more third kits, because out of the jerseys that I do own, like, the design on the third kits were ones that I really gravitated towards. I own more third kits than I do, like, traditional Overwatch League jerseys, even including, like, what I actually picked up, at the Grand Finals, because I did pick up a Dynasty jersey for, this season.
Totem I think you would agree as well. When we were there, like, I would say at least a third of the jerseys were third kit jerseys. Tons of people had like the Jake Outlaws one and the Gooshway Spark one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of that and a lot of like the Shock like camouflage jerseys as well.
The Dudley Boys jerseys, yeah.
The jerseys are $60 right now, so if you want a jersey, go pick it up. Actually, it looks like everything on the site is like 20% off, so shirts, jerseys, all of that. I ordered my championship shirt and hoodie from Dallas specifically, so that stuff takes a while to get here, unfortunately. Like when I ordered this one when they won, I forget if this one's this year's or last. I think it was last year's because it's a Hawaii shirt. It took like a month and a half to get here.
Oh, geez.
When we were talking as far as the awards, I do find it interesting that like I did hear, so Proper comes out and is accepting this award. Super great, super like great job. I don't remember, did Sean give out that award? Because I know Uber gave out. It was really sweet having Uber come out to give out the Dennis Havelka award. Somebody like who had a relationship with that guy. Somebody who like has been probably the most notable, like not for the entire time, but definitely has become like the preeminent orator of Overwatch. But like Totem and I were there, and like they were people butthurt that Proper won for MVP. You did hear a couple some dudes next to us who were like, rigged! It was rigged!
How was it rigged? He was clearly the best player in the league. Like, look, I will simp for Hanbin all day, but Proper was clearly the MVP of the league. Like, unless you were going to knock him out on a technicality, like Rookie of the Year can't win MVP, he absolutely deserved to win it.
Yep. Yeah, because I know there's like been a lot of conversation even like in our Discord too about just the amount of resources the Proper had, and obviously that does help him, but just the overall carry potential that he has as a player is just almost insurmountable, really. So really there was no other choice. Obviously he's not who I voted for, because I was torn between Smurf and Hanbin primarily, and I was pretty certain Proper was gonna get Rookie of the Year anyway. But cool to see history being made, and nonetheless with him picking up both awards. And like there was a part of me like, oh man, is he just gonna like sweep this whole thing? Like, is he gonna get Grand Finals MVP too? But sure enough, that didn't actually happen. So he still has one more to go towards. So it's something to look forward to maybe next season.
Yeah, Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, Finals MVP, and winning the championship. That's all he's got left, and then he's done. Like, I know Plat Chat was talking about it. Like, they were like, if he won, would he just retire after this year? Like, he basically won Overwatch 2, or Overwatch League at that point. Like, wouldn't you just go do something else? Like, you've already proven that you're like the best. So. Unless they're going to throw a bunch of money at you. Like, if you're going to get the bag, you might as well stay, right?
Absolutely. But, just speaking about just the general playoffs and grand finals, obviously very bittersweet for me seeing Seoul drop in both of their games, not picking up, a map against either the Fuel or the Shock. Shock's run in the lower bracket definitely was something to behold. Definitely brought the crowd into it, a lot, because obviously they're like the local team in this sort of situation. But really, at the end of the day, seeing Houston make it as far as they did was really like the standout thing for me, like viewing it, like because obviously like we had questions about like how they would fare, entering a new meta, when that Kiriko's coming into play. Well, how's Dante gonna do in this role? Is there going to be a merit diff? Well, that didn't play out all the way through, but for a team like the Houston Outlaws, who have definitely been a shaky team, but who also have done fairly well at LAN, to see them make it as far as they did was such a notable thing for the team, and something that has been a very long time coming. So to see them really progress and like take that next step forward is such a huge deal for them. And we'll be talking about some of the changes that the team made that were announced earlier today here in just a little bit. But I know regardless of my feelings on the team, like I'm not a huge Outlaws fan, but like I was really invested in the story unfolded as it happened during the playoffs there, alongside Ramses, who of course was really hoping that they would keep playing with house money, which they were doing, because none of us had them pegged to make it where they eventually landed in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I was very adamant that like once we got past, like I said this like 2 weeks ago on our last show, like we get past, we win a round or two, like easy. Like I was content with top 4. The fact that we made it to top 3, better, amazing. I will take it. I mean, we weren't gonna like. Look, I love Dante. I love that man so much. Give that man the bag. You're gonna put Dante versus Kaluj or Mikey's one thing. Dante was like, okay, Dante versus Fearless. Who's gonna win? I wonder. Mm-hmm. The dude who started playing Winston earlier at the beginning of this week, or Fearless, who literally has been playing Winston at like the top level for the past 4 years. Like, and at that rate, like if it's so funny too, because like we'd hear people in front of us be like, "How the hell did he die there?" And like you watch the replay, and Dante gets hit with like 8,000 damage, like instantly deleted. Like why can't Merit hit anything? And it's like Kaluj is literally sitting on top of him the entire time.
Yep.
Like Houston played well, but there's still definitely room to move. They just had a couple releases today. Like they're still going to. I would hope that we have at least one more year of them like earnestly trying for a championship before they go the budget route that it sounds like a lot of teams are going to go. They were good. I was super stoked with it. I thought that people who had expectations of us winning were a little out of question, but I'll take a Houston third place.
Absolutely. Like Houston was always like my second favorite team. And then Washington's kind of like third just because it's like home field kind of thing. So I was really excited to see them do well. And going into the tournament, the only team that I didn't want to play was Houston because they diffed Dallas so hard twice already this season. And Dante like destroyed Hanbin on Zarya that second time around. So I was really worried about that. But as the tournament went on, I could watch that Dante was decent, but he definitely had a lot of weird positioning mistakes that he would do. He would get it's almost similar to how Mikey plays, but Mikey has a little bit more of that experience to know like, okay, I can do this and I can not do this, whereas Dante hasn't learned that yet. And you saw him get better as it went on. Like every game that he played Winston, his positioning got better and better. The only stopping force was like Dallas and the Shock, and at that point the rest of the team just got diffed too differently. Like there wasn't too much, like as much as the tank had a big role and had a huge impact on the game. When the rest of your team can't keep up, it doesn't matter. Your tank isn't that carry potential, at least in this meta. So I was excited to see how far they went. Like the fact that they finished third, let me just give you this ray of hope to end on. Dallas finished third last year, so next year's your turn.
I mean, I was even telling Totem, there were bits where like stuff like it's little things like you even said with positioning, where like he misses the leap on Paradiso from like one roof to another, or he's just too far around a corner. I mean, I was even messing around with the Winston leaps today. Like there's so much control you have to handle just to like not leap 50 feet ahead of everybody.
Bubble timings, everything. Like it's so weird. Like even the basic combo, like you can watch him. He doesn't quite nail the basic combo of like charge, jump, release, punch every single time, whereas other tanks were just doing that nonstop to put that amount of pressure on. Now, it wasn't like a true dive meta, so that didn't all like 90% of the time that didn't secure a kill, but it was enough to put pressure on him. The big thing that stands out to me is, if there were distinct times when you could watch other tanks like Smurf, you could watch Fearless specifically, Gushui as well. Like they would use their bubble to stop ultimates, like they would use their bubble to stop beat, whereas Dante didn't do that nearly as much. Like he used his bubble a lot more reactionary. So if they want to keep him in, obviously if he can get to top 3 playing tank at a week, for Winston, he's got a strong case to be made, the tank of the team. But it's up to him. Maybe he wants to go back to DPS. So we'll see. I was excited about them, like quick rundowns. Obviously, I was disappointed the Gladiators went out. I wasn't disappointed Atlanta went out so fast because I don't like Atlanta. That's like
so fun. It's so funny that Florida 3-0'd them twice.
Exactly. That was like a highlight for me. Shanghai going out basically just confirms everything we've been saying all season is their dynasty for that particular team setup is done. Seoul, the actual dynasty, struggled as well. That was kind of disappointing. And Spark were fun to watch. No matter what game it was, Spark was just fun to watch. Like Teru going on the flanks, you can argue their legitimacy or how well they worked, but it was fun to watch. So overall, I really enjoyed the playoffs because Dallas won, but I enjoyed all the matches, even though there were more 3-0s than we expected.
Absolutely, and it was definitely an interesting thing to see like the Shock make that run in lowers, because they kind of established themselves as like the apex slayers along the way by knocking out the Dragons, by knocking out the Dynasty and the Spark. And then, eventually, they'd, take out Houston in pretty dominant fashion in a 3-0 win. But boy, was I so glad Gushue showed up. I had to wear my third kit Gushue jersey, that first day. Just I needed to make sure he was represented, especially after some of the conversations on the preview episode.
What's wrong? Yeah. I was wrong. That's the
and
first
I was
thing
right.
I said to Totem. That's the first thing I said to Totem. I leaned in and I was like, look, I'm willing to walk back to what I said about Goosewave. I'm willing to walk back what I said about creative.
Here, let me ask you this question now, Ramses. You posed it to me. Who would you rather have in a fight on Winston, Gooseway or Fate?
I mean...
I think the results speak for themselves.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, and I think it was really great kind of getting to see Gushue kind of reestablish himself, because let's be honest, there's a couple of those players, specifically Winston players, that I don't know if we'll see in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, to see him have another glory run was really great. He was super fun to watch. I was really London was really fun to watch too, from what I got to see of them.
Mm-hmm.
I am sad I didn't get to see Florida live, but we can't all get what we want. I was teasing Totem the whole time as Shock was getting Shock bodied Soul. I was like, you did this. The power you tried to give to Soul is flowing into the Houston energy right now.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that was going to be me in the match, my immediate thought was fuck.
And we're done.
And Ramses and I were talking, about some of the matches our teams were having, and it's just it was in the cards. We had already, we knew momentum was not in our favor. You could really tell. Just the pressure that was being dictated by the Shock in both of those series, both against, the Dynasty as well as the Outlaws. And, when Proper was playing the way that he was, it's just man, good luck, because he was on an absolute tear leading into the grand finals. And I have to say, all in all, I was so thankful that it wasn't just a dominant 4-0 or 4-1 in the finals of the playoffs. We got a 7-map series, which is fantastic. I think most of us predicted it 4-2. Maybe it wasn't that match specifically, the opponent anyway for Dallas, but in the end, our pick to win the tournament actually came out on top, and of course that was the Dallas Fuel, who picked up the 4-3 victory. But man, that series had just so much drama baked into it. And, if you're talking about starting the Overwatch 2 era of competitive esports, that is exactly how you want to kick things off.
Yeah, that game was intense. Like I said, I went through the full range of emotions that game. The first map, I was like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then the second point, I was like, oh god, we C9'd that one pretty badly. But it won't be that bad. Mikey kind of forced it. You kind of start giving the denial, and then the third point, you're like, okay, this is good, and then they rolled him, and then Kings Row comes around, and Dallas holds them on second point. I'm like, oh, this might be over quick. Dallas. You hardly ever see teams get stopped on second point Kings Row. And Dallas falls a little short through some aggressive mistakes, I guess is the best way to put it. And then, we have a game from there, and, it just goes back and forth at that point. Shock go up, Dallas catch up, Shock go up again, Dallas catches up. The point for me that I was really worried was Dorado, and the Fuel players actually echoed this as well. They said when we beefed Dorado, that was the point where oh god, we could actually lose this, because they had so much momentum going into Dorado. But they said conversely, the point where they were oh no, we can come back and win it, is when Shock just totally dropped the ball on Esperanza. They were basically we shouldn't have won that last fight. Shock had 4 ultimates, and then they just threw them away. And they said, and this is kind of how I felt too, is I was okay, the last map is push. I'm Dallas has been the best push team all season. They were the ones with the most completions. They were the ones that just looked good on like every push map outside of Colosseo, because no one looks good on Colosseo because it's a shitty map. But that they started to run away with it, and Shock clawed back some space. But that last fight, it's just Shock. You could see Shock, like that was the first point in this whole tournament outside of the very first Houston game where Shock looked like rookies. Like they made rookie mistakes. And thank God they did. But it like that whole game, man, that people have already said it. I think that's probably going to be up there in like the top 5, probably even top 3 Overwatch games ever.
It's definitely the best finals, I would say.
Oh, that's like no question. Like, I remember the finals I went to. The lead up to it was great, and then the finals were like, oh, cool. Shock 4-0 Vancouver. I guess we'll go home now. Kind of thing. So, all in all, like, Dallas. It's hard for me to talk because it comes off so biased. I mean, you can see behind me. But Dallas were like the most dominant team the whole tournament. Shock were the most dominant team outside of that very first Houston game where he is a little nerve blip, we'll call it. And Houston obviously performed very well that game. So I am glad Dallas won because I felt like they were the ones that deserved it the most in terms of this meta. Now you can have a whole wider conversation of whether pre-playoff patches are good or bad, and I'm sure we will have that discussion. But tonight is not that time. Tonight is, the time for gloating. And now that I'm done, I went over my thoughts on the other teams. Like I was sad some of the bigger teams didn't go out. Or didn't go as far as I wanted them to, but seeing the London Spitfire get like 6th place was a great story because the only downside to that, and some other podcasts have talked about this as well, is other teams are going to look at that and go, hey, we can do that. Let's just budget the shit out of our team and we'll build them up. And it's ask Boston how well that works.
You'll build them up and then break them down.
Yeah, no, we'll break them down and then stay broke. So
I mean, what was interesting about it was, well, for one, I need to know, Spyder, Spyder and Toto, I didn't get to ask you this. What are your thoughts on? So, for most of the tournament, what we had seen was that Shock would play Mikey for control on the. And then for pretty much every map afterwards, it was Kalush. I'd heard people go back and forth saying, well, Kalush usually needs a map to warm up, and then he's kind of at peak playing time. We get to grand finals, they keep Mikey in the whole time.
I think that was the right decision. The one thing that separated Dallas from the other teams was tempo, and the only way to have a chance against Dallas is to match their tempo or beat their tempo. And we saw that every game leading up to that. Like any team that got aggressive could play Dallas one-on-one, which, is hard to do because they have such great players, had a chance. Like we saw it with the Spark game when Spark took off that map. If you let Dallas play their game, they're going to run over you. And Kalush is a great Winston player, but he is so tempered. Like he is definitely like the methodical, like dive Winston, whereas Mikey is just like, all right, I'm jumping in, let's go. We'll brawl it out and see how it goes and let Proper get the space. So I think that was the right decision. It wasn't the one I was happiest with because the whole time I was like, put Kalush in because I know we can walk over Kalush because he's too slow. And, worst case scenario, it would have gave us a map because of that, he needs a map to warm up thing. But I think that was the right choice, 100%. Mikey obviously was playing well that day. We saw him play well against Houston. So, and the coaches know more than us. Maybe it's a communication thing. Maybe, they know Dallas is a tempo-based team. So they were like, Mikey's the only one that's going to be aggressive enough, and we're going to live by this or we're going to die by it.
Yeah, I don't think you want to put yourself in a position where you are too tempered, especially when the stakes are as high as they are. You know, it's all about like putting yourself in the best position to win. And obviously, like Mikey ended up being, you know, the right call in this situation. But yeah, a lot of it just boiled down to, you know, the tempo of the game. And obviously, they have like their own distinct styles. But you know, stylistically for this particular matchup, Mikey was you know, the correct call. But, you know, I understand why the conversation is being brought up because, you know, you're accustomed to seeing it. You know, it was their subbing strategy throughout the entire tournament leading into the grand final. So when initially, you know, Mikey said it, and, you know, a lot of people were just, you know, raising their eyebrows and like, oh, this is a little bit different. But, you know, we also saw other teams like mixing things up a little bit. You know, we saw
Knee
the
jerks.
Dynasty doing it in regards to like Profit playing the Kiriko, which
Yeah.
you know, work to some degree, but you know, definitely end up biting them in the ass in the long run, regardless of that.
How do
But
you feel? How do you feel if you're Eris?
Mm.
We're like, that's just crushing, dude.
Mhm.
Like you were. Look, if Profit's gonna be your Kiriko, fine, I get that. Don't, but like going through like, all right, we don't think we can win. I know this as your role. We don't think we can win if you're playing this, so we're gonna take you out. Like, and again, like, look, Kiriko is really important, but at the same time, like, you need to have your best player on the most impactful role.
Yep. 100%.
And Stalker did well. Like, Stalker did fine. No issues with Stalker. But, like, when Sojourn is the most important person out there, I can't help but think maybe Profit should have been on the Sojourn.
Yeah. It's the same problem the Glads had with the whole Kevster Happy thing where they kept flip-flopping him. Like Kevster would play Sojourn one map and Happy would play Sojourn the next map. Like, you know, you needed in, you know, teams like London showed this. Like, you just need a plan and you need to follow that plan. And as long as you have that, you're gonna do better, especially in that meta. Like the flip flopping, it really hurt a lot of the teams. Like the knee jerk reactions. Like, what was it? Wasn't it the Spark just ran, or was it the Spark? I feel like it was the Spark that just randomly played Pineapple one match.
Oh, yeah, Pineapple play the game where they lost to the game where they beat Toronto.
Yeah, they
3-2, by the way, like close. Pineapple plays those first 4 maps, and then they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they sub in Alpha E and they win. Like,
yeah, like why? Like, he hasn't played like all season. Like, why now? Like, I would understand if it's like a Widow meta and you have a Widow specialist, and we haven't seen that Widow specialist all season, or a Tracer specialist, but you knew it was going to be Sojourn and Tracer or Sojourn and Reaper. At that point, the rest of the pieces were already there. Like, why are you starting to move these pieces around? So I don't know. Like the Kiriko thing with Profit was pretty much just like self-fulfilling destiny for us because, you know, we said they're going to find a way to play Profit on Kiriko anyway. So that was kind of just validating. But it's got to be something in his contract or something. I don't know. That just seems like such a random off the wall, especially because, you know, like you said, she's impactful, but she's not the most impactful. Like I would probably say there was over 100 team fights where the Kiriko would die, and the teams who Kiriko died, that team still won the team fight, you know, kind of thing. So I don't know. It was interesting. That meta's gone now. We'll have a completely new look. So.
Quick note about that meta as well. So from what it sounds like, initially you saw a lot more reports of them playing Winston Tracer with the Sojourn, and as the Reaper changes kind of got put into the patch last minute.
Well, the way I heard it, and this was from Plat Chat and Custa, and Reiner kind of validated this, like, not directly, but you knew who he was talking about in his like tweets, is basically they were playing like Winston, Tracer, Sojourn up until like 2 days before the playoffs, and then Dallas started playing Reaper, and that just threw everybody through a loop because Dallas at that point did not lose a scrim. So
when you had teams as well who were like testing out the Roadhog,
Mm-hmm.
which you're seeing in Korean contenders right now is like the next evolution of this meta.
Yeah, and like I said, the whole playoff patch conversation is a much larger conversation that we could have on like a less stacked night, because there are merits for and against it.
Yep, and just getting back to Contender's career really quick, like the Roadhog variation has primarily been Roadhog, Tracer, Sojourn. But it's only a couple of teams running it, and they're a week in right now, and O2 Blast hasn't dropped a single map yet. That in this case, and Pantera is the other undefeated team. They've dropped a couple of maps at that point. The only other thing I did want to bring up in regards to like Shock in particular, and this happened in both their series against the Houston Outlaws and also in the grand finals. There were a couple of attacks that mirrored one another in both of those series, where Shock kind of got stopped before like the second point. And it happened on like Route 66 and Kings Row. Like in both times, despite how terrible their attack was, they brought it back. So to see that like happen in not one but two series, and just knowing like, oh man, here we go again. Like this isn't looking good. How confident are you feeling? Because I was talking to Vosh about this. And I was like, man, like normally, you either held at first point or you complete the map. You rarely see it getting stopped, kind of like in the street space for Route 66. And to see it happen in back-to-back series just like blew my mind, because they got like stopped almost at like the exact same points, both there and on, Kings Row. So very perplexing to see that actually pan out the way that it did. But for them to like bring it back on the defensive side of the game was absolutely great to see.
I mean, Kings Row Dallas just threw like that. There was no like. I don't want to discredit the Shock, because the Shock played really well, but Dallas just threw on Kings Row. Like they like Custa did like a VOD review, and he like went through each thing, and like there were like 4 or 5 times Dallas should have won that, and just they didn't call the right target, or they blew too many ults at once and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always cool to see the Fuller holds, because it's a fun moment, because it doesn't happen that often, versus like C9s, which happen all the time now.
Right on. So, with that being said, of course, it is the off season officially. Seems like there's going to be like a 2-month break before teams start to like practice again. But, we're still waiting on official details for season 6 of the Overwatch League. But we have already started to see some changes, primarily from like GM positions, some coaches. Houston did make a couple of changes to their roster, which we had mentioned a little bit earlier, which we'll go over here. So, I just kind of want to talk about what we've heard so far for roster apocalypse. And obviously we're going to be doing this probably every week for the foreseeable future, just because like it's not always like extremely heavy handed. It's kind of like more of the trickle effect in this case. So the changes that we have seen so far, we have the Vancouver Titans addressing basically the team from the top down. So they parted ways with their head coach Deepay.
Really? I didn't see this. I didn't see the
yes.
Vancouver stuff. Dang.
Yeah, so I'll go over all them really quick, and then we'll circle back so I can get your thoughts on it. Horizon parted ways with their head coach, Asoft. And this comes like after last week, their interim general manager, Mineral, left the team. And they had welcomed Pre, formerly of the Washington Justice, as their new general manager for the 2023 season. And, as we mentioned earlier, the Outlaws being the first team to make roster changes officially after, finishing in 3rd place this past season. They had released Doge, Lep, and Creative. Obviously, we're going to have some thoughts on the latter part of that, especially just because, that's been a talking point in regards to like that trade that they had with, the Dynasty. And, just seeing how both of them played and how it worked out for both teams, really, despite Iris getting benched, in the playoffs overall. But yeah, like, really early on, a lot of things happening, and obviously, like for the Vancouver Titans in particular, when DPay had joined the team mid-season, they had not won a single game. DPay joins the team as their head coach, and they eventually picked up the first win against the Paris Eternal. And I know, like, that necessarily wasn't like a huge deal, because Paris Eternal also not so hot of a team throughout the entirety of the season, regardless of what roster changes that they did make. But you saw the uptick really start to show through for the Vancouver Titans with DPay at the helm, where they hadn't won a game, but they ended up winning 5 games during the regular season, which is worth mentioning solely because in the 2021 season, the Vancouver Titans were absolute dog shit. They were like 1-15. So you still saw the uptick year to year, but we saw a lot more potential blossoming from the Vancouver Titans, and a lot of that was because of DPay. So when I saw that news, I'm just like, man, like, their loss is definitely going to be someone else's gain, but that one was really perplexing for me personally.
It has to do with like the behind the scenes stuff, right? Because DPay was very outspoken about the organization as a whole, and that's not going to keep you a job for very long. Just the monetary situation, the support structure that or lack of support structure. So I feel like results speak for themselves. Like, obviously you go from a winless team to a team that could eke its way into play-ins is, that kind of speaks for itself. So there had to be like, maybe DPay was like, you're not going to support us, so I don't want to be here, kind of thing. Or maybe they were like, you talk too much shit on Twitter, so we don't want you here. Regardless of the results, who knows what really went on. But yes, it is a overall loss for the Titans.
It just like I have to think, Spyder, that you're right. That they're like it. I would imagine it be some sort of behind the scenes thing, because the whole idea is that DPay was the guy who was going to come over here and like redo your roster, kind of rebuild stuff and put it together. And like, you don't do that 3/4 of the way through the season and by picking up Mirror. Like, that's just not how that works. Would have needed at least an off season. Vancouver, from what it sounds like, spent a decent amount of money this off season. I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to be trying to fit that London Spitfire, Florida Mayhem kind of approach again, of trying to go for cheaper budget players, and trying to throw that together. I'm interested to see where he goes, if he goes anywhere, because I mean, he's out there, No Hill's out there, Get Amaze is still out there. It'll really be interesting to see which teams invest in a coach like him, or like, are we just at the point where like people may just want to move on to new talent? Side note: KDG is still out there, by the way, and
so is Arrow. Nobody's picking up him, but hey, our Wizard Young still out there too.
Young?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've heard the argument, if what's it called, if Spyder has heard what I'm referencing, I've heard the argument that KDG actually may no longer have been at fault in Toronto, and therefore you should pick up KDG. But
yeah, I don't know about that.
Interesting. The Iron Shoulder has to find a new place.
Yeah. Speaking to like the Boston pickup, that one surprised me, because pre's results haven't been stellar. Washington Justice.
Well, neither is Boston's.
True. But you got to think they have a specific plan in mind, because the sports media empire that is behind Boston, A, doesn't like to lose, and B, doesn't like to lose money. So there's got to be a specific reason they went with Pre. And, to me, it's not result based. Like, I feel like they have a plan to build around him to continue the farm, but we'll see how it goes.
Are you excited, Spyder, when we get the pre-motivational speech?
Oh gosh,
in week 2, about how you have to conquer your greatest fears and how we #we built this too?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. Like, going to the Washington homestand, and I saw Pre around. We'll see how it works for Boston. Like I refuse to comment on Boston at this point, because every time I say something about Boston, it ends up being wrong, regardless of whatever the take is. I can be like, Boston's going to be the worst team in the world, and then they come out and they win a stage without losing, and I can say, well, Boston's like a mid team, and then they're like the worst team in the league. Like they just, I don't know. It seems like they listen, and then they're like, all right, we're just not going to play our best tank player all season until we fire all the coaches. And then boom. Oh, hey, we had Punk this whole time. Why didn't we play him? I don't know. Well, I'm curious to see what direction Boston goes in at this point. Like, I feel like they're either going to go all Korean or they're going to go all Western at this point. I feel like they've had a weird tenure of a mixed roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but obviously, like the other eyebrow raiser was Outlast actually dropping creative in this case, and like everyone who they dropped today were acquisitions that they had kind of like halfway into the season for 2022, and like part of that was like the 1-to-1 trade with Creative and Iris, and Dosh and Lep both extremely limited like playtime this season for Houston compared to Creative, who basically like as soon as that trade happened, he had a starting position alongside Lastro on the team. So like that was a significant chunk of playtime getting eaten up that obviously you're gonna need the replacement at this point in time. I mean, Lep only really played like one series, really, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
And obviously, like Dante was kind of, holding things down fairly well, at least, in regards to the tank position. So, even Doge wasn't really too much of like of a shakeup in regards to the roster itself.
I don't think you get rid of so. Because I saw people come with the critique of like you literally just got rid of all the value you would have had from this trade. And I don't think that, in my mind, I think they have somebody already.
Mm-hmm.
My impression is that they wouldn't just like drop immediately, because they have to have rosters like at least 8-man finalized. There's a roster finalization date coming up very soon. I would imagine that they're probably grabbing somebody already. And honestly, like, yeah.
And this to me just speaks like maybe Creative just wants to go home. Like maybe his hands were off in that trade, because we have heard about trades in the past where players have no say in it. Like it's just the organization. Like, congratulations, you're going to the LA Valiant now, kind of thing. So that's what this looks like to me. Is it looks like the Creative probably just wants to go home. Like he doesn't want to be on a Western team, or at least he didn't want to be on that Western team right now. So it's weird because I feel like he was meshing really well with the team, and I feel like I actually feel like both of those teams made out really well in that trade. Like I felt like Eris was doing really well. I felt like Creative was doing well. Like it just takes a different roster to bring out the best. So that one was a little weird. Like the other two, I 100% expected that because, like you said, their play time was limited at best. And when you got Dante to play every position ever, what do you need tanks for at this point? So we'll see where they go from here. I talked about it during the tournament section, so I won't go too much into it. But yeah, this to me just screams like maybe Creative, and who knows, maybe Creative's going to go do military service. Maybe there's a family thing going on. Like obviously you're playing in Korea, and then all of a sudden you're like, boom, congratulations, you're moving to Texas. That's pretty jarring. So I feel like there might be just personal reasons, and that comes out like bad. I don't think it was like a bad split, at least as far as we know. It seems like he just wanted to go, and that's fine. I am sure in terms of juice, we will get juicier stories than Creative leaving Houston.
The big asterisk for Houston is the whole point for Pelican coming to Houston was that so he could play with his best buddy, Piggy. And Piggy is no longer on the team. And Pelican, at least on social media, seemed pretty bummed about it.
Yeah.
So, and you want Pelican back. You need Pelican back, unless literally like Proper or somebody else randomly becomes available. So you want, like, that's the one I'm interested to see.
Yeah.
If they can lock him down. Honestly, there's the joke of like Houston's just gonna quietly be like, Piggy, you want to come back? Like, you want to come play
Here,
Sigma?
Piggy.
That'll be interesting. I'm interested to see as well. I think one of the big offseason things that we haven't got, like, isn't necessarily on here, but it's just so the rumor is, of course, that like what big money players are either going to get switched to other teams to try and offshore some of the cost, or are going to stay there. Because if you're a team like Toronto, you put a bunch of money into that roster and did not turn out the way you want. Do you really want to have all that money tied up in a lot of those players? Same with Washington. Like, is Decay coming back? Is he coming back, Spyder? Do we want Decay to come back?
No, I having spoke to Mark, the owner of the Justice, he is definitely like I want to make as much money as possible. So I would be surprised. The only reason I could see Decay come back is because the results haven't been good. They can negotiate him down like, hey, you're not delivering, so we will pay you. But I think Washington just needs to rebuild at this point. Like, I think they need to go like a whole different direction. It's similar to what I expect the Fusion's going to do this season. Like, Carpe is going to leave, and you're going to build around this new rookie roster. Like, I think that's what Washington needs to do. I feel like other teams are going to try the budget route, and we're going to see how that goes.
Yeah. I'm wondering as well, like, because like you think about like high money players, like Chorong was like a big money guy from what we expected. I would imagine Reiner got a good chunk of money because he was like,
I can see that. Yeah.
Maybe not the most, but like Reiner seemed like the NA main tank that was out and about. Like, there's also the idea of like, if you have a budget roster, like, I don't know about London, but definitely like Florida, do you sell high on Sir Majed? Get your money now. Do you sell high on Hydron? Get your money now. Like, something I've had to come to terms with is like, you want to see, if a roster does well, you want to see that same roster come back with new pieces. And there's plenty of teams, like you said, who are just like, we need to make money. It's way more fiscally better for us to just sell high on this one guy and get another young player and coach them up.
There's definitely like it's weird. Like, you do so badly that you can justify not paying a whole bunch of money and keep the same roster. You do so well that you want to keep the same roster, but there's this big open barren middle field where you're like, okay, probably I'd say 4th through whatever. Those teams are definitely looking to start min-maxing their monetary gains, where the other teams are already kind of set. Like, Paris is like, we're not going to spend money, we're going to make it work because we're already dog shit. Dallas is like, we're going to spend money because we have a championship team now. It's the same thing that Shanghai did last year. It's the same thing that Shock did the year before, barring any retirements. So it's that middle ground where you're going to see a lot of shuffles. Like, I could absolutely see Florida selling off someone to a Korean or Chinese team that wants a tank like someone. I can see that. I can honestly see Shanghai selling Lip at a high price and rebuilding a team. Like, this could be a very fun offseason. Like, it's kind of like that meme, like we were talking about creative. Like, is creative like the juice for Houston? And it's like, dude, this isn't even the juiciest story just for Houston. So it's going to be a fun offseason.
Man, and maybe Halo will decide to grace us plebes again with his presence. And
I like just finding out on Twitter or Mastodon, whatever it's going to be in a year when everybody leaves Twitter. The old-fashioned way.
I'm just gonna get a Discord DM from Totem and be like, "Don't tell anybody I told you this."
So in the Overwatch League Discord, they announced that Hanbin is now the main tank for the Houston Outlaws.
No, don't tell anyone I told you.
Yeah.
Yep, just spreading misinformation out there. Just usual things on the internet.
That's what we do.
That's
That's
just-
Halo for thoughts. Halo for your thoughts.
we just had the midterm, so there's all sorts of misinformation being spread. But
Well, hey, you know what we should do with the way things currently are?
what's that?
It costs $8 to change your profile name to Halo of Thoughts on Twitter.
Oh, that's.
And it just started.
If I'm gonna
Sean
parody
Miller.
someone or impersonate someone, I'm gonna do someone a little bit higher up on the food chain.
Nate Nanzer, I'm coming back, y'all. You ready for Overwatch League?
We'll just post a bunch of Warhammer memes with Nate Nanzer's face on there. He's coming back for retribution.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have.
I'll be the dark horse. I'll throw out my Pete Vlastelica account.
Oh my gosh.
Coming back from the grave.
I remember him. He was at the Washington homestand, and he just did not understand anything of what was going on. He was just sitting there like, guns, abilities, money.
You ever know how there's one picture of Pete Vlastelica?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even confident. This man may not even exist. It might just be John Spector with a mask on. Oh man, there's so many people that you can pretend to be.
It's three contenders. It's three contenders players in a trench coat. Like, we're gonna get money for contenders one way or another.
Oh, gotta do what you gotta do. That's why you shouldn't be handing out the merch for free. You gotta sell that shit.
Exactly.
But yeah, it looks like Ramses had posted a couple things in Discord. It looks like Kron has announced his retirement from the Guangzhou Charge. There's definitely been a couple of LFT tweets out there, which is fairly common. It traditionally means that you have the option to look. They might still be on a +1 type of contract, but it still means that they can look to try to find a new home. We'll keep an eye on that, but we'll primarily just be reporting the stuff that is official releases and retirements or whatever in regards to the official team Twitters on that case, because there are going to be a lot of moving parts, just like there is with every off season throughout the year. But as a whole, it is worth noting, overall Overwatch League playoffs, most viewership to date. For what we see both in the playoffs and also the grand finals, which was absolutely fantastic to see. Glad people showed up. I tried to, keep tabs on the viewership actually at the venue, while it was happening. And, there were some times where there were a lot of times where it was 250, 300K, which was great to see, especially after seeing how many regular season games were just 38, 40, maybe 45 at that. Obviously it was a big weekend for esports, both for Overwatch and outside of Overwatch, with Worlds going on as well. But just to see those numbers definitely brought a smile to my face.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can really add to that other than go team. This hopefully combination of that and the Butterfinger prowess that we saw will start bringing the sponsors back in. But yeah, I mean, I when it hit 400K, I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah, and just speaking on Butterfingers really quick, the fact that everyone latched onto that immediately, just from a fanfare perspective, and just a crowd chanting Butterfingers every time the advertisements were playing, that was definitely one of the weirdest things, but I loved every second of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny, and I could I know I was griping at Totem because I didn't see the Butterfinger on our client at all, but I was like, is it, you're telling me that they can see the Butterfinger live but we can't? And you know what? Credit to Golden Boy, the best plug man in the business out there. I've never heard a man so excited to talk about Butterfingers in his entire life.
And I've also never seen anyone get a crowd to do the wave for literally 10 minutes straight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was also a thing.
Golden Boy was on fire, man. I love that dude. Great host. He's just been I am always happy when he gets called in.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good. It was a good time. I don't know. You didn't get to see this, Spyder, but they would every couple of minutes. Maybe you did, but like every couple of minutes they post like people's tweets from the arena, and my favorite was like so excited to watch the Dallas Fuel win today, and it was an XQC Overwatch League player pick, and people popped. I was excited. There was a very loud pop for XQC.
They showed those on. They may not have been the same ones, but we had the tweet scroll in between matches where we would see like all the art and tweets coming out. So yeah, I mean, more engagement means more sponsors, which means a healthier league, which, you know, for a while there, and even still now, you know, you can be a little worried about with all the Blizzard stuff going on, but it's definitely promising, at least.
Yeah, and it's even more promising knowing that how successful the Overwatch 2 launch has been, at least from a number perspective, because we did learn more about the Q3 earnings call from Activision Blizzard. So, you know, we learned a couple of new things in regards to this. Not like a ton to go over, but we have seen 35 million players for Overwatch 2 in the first month. You know, it's also highlighted that like the average daily player number have more than doubled what it was for Overwatch 1. And, you know, like in regards to like player base numbers, we really never hear anything about that. You know, I know like a couple of weeks ago they were saying, oh yeah, like we had like 25 million players in regards to like the first like 10 days of the launch, or like it was a similar timeline to that. So, I know like in regards to like, well, has the direction going free to play paid off in regards to like bringing people in, and you know, like obviously a lot of people tuned into the Overwatch League Grand Finals. You know, we saw viewership numbers up across the board. The player base seems to be active, more so than it's ever been in the past. Sure, the queue times are still a little bit all over the place depending on where you're at, but you know, they'll try to work on that. But you know, we've already seen some adjustments in regards to, you know, some of the in-game shop as well with them, you know, kind of like the Lincoln, like the Witch Kiriko skin from the bundle, and, you know, just offering stuff at like a discount as well, also as individual items in the shop. So, you know, regardless of what complaints there might be, you know, with some of the transactions, at least it seems like right now, like they have tried to address some of the concerns, but all in all, the switch to free to play, seeing the numbers, like the proof is in the pudding right now. Like it's worked out so far, but obviously, like there's obviously room for improvement in regards to, you know, just giving a little bit more to the community and just being able to earn some more things within the game itself.
Yep, that's all I have to add to that. that was pretty verbose. So, and we're getting pretty late here. So, I will say, yep, good summary.
I agree. Good job, Totem.
Well, outside of that, we also did have Team 4 doing an interview with Gamer Braves, which also like kind of ties into the new hero, which we will be talking about shortly. You know, they talked a little bit about, you know, Ramatra's story and like how close he was to Zenyatta, whereas like Ramatra was the one who actually brought Zenyatta back to the monastery to introduce him to the Shimbali. And you know, they had a closeness similar to brothers. But you know, they talked about a few different things in regards to like looking at the queue times, primarily for like support players out there. And you know, like, oh yeah, well, like it'll just fix itself by releasing more support heroes, right? Like, yeah, that's the plan. But the problem with that, obviously, is a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, yes, we are getting more heroes released into the game. You know, we're getting to the point, like with the introduction of Season 2, which drops next month, where we will start to have like the alternating, okay, hero release, no hero. Hero release, no hero. And you know, obviously the game's kind of like updating, at least like with the battle pass, like it's like what 9-week time frame in regards to that.
Yep.
But I think like the bigger things to note here are they talked about a couple of heroes that they're looking at in regards to like balance changes. They also talked a little bit about like potentially introducing more melee DPS heroes into the game as well. But it was definitely one to like keep an eye on, seeing like like what sort of insight are we going to get with the new hero? Because like what we got at the grand finals was basically the origin story, and not like a whole lot of details. So to see if we got any little tidbits here was definitely worth checking out. But anything really like stand out for you guys here, or are you guys like looking forward to more melee heroes in the game too? Because right now they're kind of few and far between.
As someone who can't aim, I'm always stoked for it. I think it'll be interesting to see how they work with it, because I know there is the fear that it'll go the way of Brig. But if you have something that has a little bit higher skill expression, I think it's always good. Ramatra looks interesting. I'm very curious to see how he plays. I imagine if he has two different forms, it is going to be pretty complicated. So I'm curious to see what his play style is like. And the amount of people in that room who were like so hyped for Malga, and like the littlest bit like, well, that might be the long-haired Omnic that we saw from the wall, but it's definitely going to be Malga. And then it was Ramatra, and there was a noticeable like in the room when it happened.
I think he looks really cool. I think he is going to be a super high skill hero in terms of just knowing when to do things, because it definitely sounds like you're going to need to know how to balance those two forms a lot more. And this is the one thing that stood out to me, is they were like, he's our first hero ever to change forms. And I'm like, bro, I know you removed Bastion for like 3 weeks, but Bastion has been in the game since forever.
Doesn't Echo also do that?
I mean, for Ultimate, she changes hero, but yeah, like, I don't know. Certain articles showed some of his abilities, but they never talked about what they were. So we'll have to see, what it ends up being in the end. But I'm just glad for another tank. And if they keep like tank support is, I think, what they said a while back, I think that will be fine. So I do think we need another tank. Just because we saw how much Junker Queen affected the game. I feel like, if they can get the balance right, I feel like tank's so impactful that this could just be really cool. And, they said it on the desk, and multiple people have said this as well. Like, we just want more Zenyatta lore. Like, we want to learn more about the Omnics. So this is cool that we're gonna get, the character that was teased like 4 years ago in an Archives event. Like, that's cool. So I'm excited for that. In terms of like the rest of the hero balance, look, I don't care what they make, as long as it's not stupidly broken for a year and a half.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning, like Ramatra was first teased back in like 2019 during like the Storm Rising event, and that was like when Doomfist was like meeting up with like an unknown Omnic figure, which turned out to be the leader of the Null Sector, who is Ramatra, as we've been talking about. And what's interesting about Ramatra is like it's hard to like really paint him as like a pure villain, in the sense that like he's really just wanting a peaceful existence alongside his fellow Omnics. And it kind of like ties into how like the humankind has been oppressive towards the Omnics, and obviously like that's led out to all out wars in the Overwatch universe. And we don't know like what the breakdown of the kit is yet for the hero. But as we mentioned, like he does have two forms. So you have his Omnic form, and then you have his Nemesis form. So basically what we know is Omnic appears to be the more defensive option, allowing Ramatra to shield his teammates. Going into Nemesis is more of like an aggressive play style. And in the interview with Gamer Braves, Alec Dawson mentioned he does have a staff, and that does shoot projectiles in a stream. And then while you're in Nemesis form, he's going to be punching his enemies, so you can kind of imagine what that's going to look like as well. But they did note, like, he's going to be able to like punch through barriers in order to target backlines. And like in regards to his ultimate, we know that it is shared between forms, and like hitting the ultimate will automatically transform you into his nemesis form. On top of that, so we'll have to see how exactly it's going to play out. But obviously, like getting another tank here was going to be great. And they did also mention like they are going to take a look at Junker Queen to maybe bring her up a bit as well. Specifically. So, all in all, I really enjoyed the design. You know, it's great to have some a throwback character get it introduced into the game. And sure, you know, I feel like the Overwatch community just as a whole always is like, oh, it's 100% this person. And I feel like we go through this every time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then when we get these reveals, you know, there's definitely like the knee-jerk reaction of like, it's not who we wanted. But then everyone's just like so blinded by the fact that it's not who they want, and then they just don't really appreciate like what's actually in front of them. The design of Ramatra looks fucking dope. Like I'm super pumped for this hero. And yeah, you know, we can talk about like the meme of him having two forms and how that hasn't been done before. But I took it more as when he transforms, he has different abilities. That's what they were meaning. Not like, oh, he's just going into a turret mode and he's just, you know, idle, like it was with Bastion.
No, go ahead, Ramses.
I was just gonna say, what I think is hilarious that if you look at his Nemesis mode, for one, they do the Simpsons thing where his like Omnic mode is 4 fingers and his Nemesis mode has like 3 or some variation of that. It's either 5 and 4 or 3 and 4. But what's so funny is that when you look at his Nemesis mode, he's like, it spreads out from him, so he's just chilling there with his arms crossed in the front of like it, and he's giant arms behind him the whole time.
It's very anime, like hard, like heavily anime. Like, you know, you're like, oh, this isn't even my final form, and then like he crosses his arms and like a robot grows off of him. You're like, ha ha ha. But I am hyped for him. Like the origin story for me was the best one they've done since Sigma. Like Sigma's such a high bar to hit. So that video itself was cool. And then just his, like you said, his design is really amazing. Now we'll see how he plays. That will be the determining factor of how much I really enjoy him. But you know, they're pretty good at designing tanks that are fun to play at this point. Like even Junker Queen now in her underpowered state is still fun to play. So I'm excited for it. I just hope I hope they test him. Like, you know, they need to put him in like an experimental thing or something, or PTR. Like, I don't know how they're going to do that now. Because I feel like if they just throw him live on like level 55 on the battle pass and he's like stupidly broken like Junker Queen was, that's going to cause even more people to be like, no, this battle pass thing isn't working. So we'll see how that works. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, and we know he's gonna like basically kind of tie into the new map that is coming out in December as well. We don't really have any details on that yet, but obviously that is next season to worry about. But you know, plenty of stuff coming up, and you know, all in all, you know, just great live experience. You know, cool that Dallas Fuel got their, you know, feather in the cap, raising the trophy. Absolutely great to see after being, you know, the most dominant team throughout the course of, you know, this season of the Overwatch League. And you know, like I've just been enjoying watching contenders, which I haven't done in some time. And yeah, you know, go figure. O2 Bless, they'll just holding shit down, as you would come to expect, just because they have been the dominant force in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't personally watched any contenders, but I will. I'll check it out. So I don't normally catch Korean contenders because that's definitely like the hours are usually a little weird, and then I never remember to go back and watch it.
At like 3 a.m. local time for you, Spyder. So that's why.
Hey, that's only 2 hours from now. I mean, it's not like I have work tomorrow. Wait, do I have work tomorrow? It is a holiday. Should probably find that out. but I'm tired.
Yeah, it is definitely a late one. So I think it's best that we close things out for tonight. So, of course, the best thing to do to keep up to date with everything going on here on the network is to follow us over on Twitter. We are at HND Overwatch. We also have all of our video content and also live stream over on YouTube at Overwatch League Network. And we also have our community Discord where you can engage with all of us as well as our listeners at discord.me/OWLN show. Outside of that, of course, you can reach all three of us over on social media as well. So, Ramses, where can our listeners find you over there?
You can find me on Twitter at Ramses_GG.
Excellent. And Spyder, what about you?
You can find me by sending me a carrier pigeon at this point because I'm bracing for the eventual downfall of Twitter. But for now, you can find me at _Spyder Gaming.
And as for myself, you can find me on Twitter at Totemlydrunk. But yeah, good to be back. This has been episode 241 officially of Heroes Never Die. It's been a long time coming. Great to be in good company. And yeah, obviously we'll have a lot more to come in the coming months ahead for Overwatch 2 content. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with the competitive stuff as well when it rolls in, which it should be, pretty steady, I would say, for the foreseeable future. But for now, guys, thank you so much for joining us here tonight for Heroes Never Die. We'll probably be back next week, more than likely. If not, maybe a week after. We got to figure that out. We'll see, what the news flow is, and just kind of, go from there in the meantime. But yeah, we'll see you guys around. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good night.